few weeks ago I made a 50s style retro credenza or TV stand for my living room, and so I thought I would follow it up by making a coffee table in this similar style. Like the credenza, this is all made out of cherry, and it has storage areas that are behind these sliding doors. There's 4 of them, 2 on each side, and they're about 10 inches deep, enough to store maybe some magazines, or you could even keep your remote controls in there. You know, like that would happen. So I realize mid-century modern isn't exactly everybody's favorite style of furniture. I really like the retro design, but I've packed this video with enough good information that you can pick up a few tips and make something of your own. You guys have probably seen me make a lot of dados and rabbited joints in my projects. That's because I think that those are kind of the perfect woodworking joint. Dados are pretty simple to make. All you need is a router with a straight bit, and it doesn't require any complicated setup. But they're really strong, and they really help you to align all of your pieces before you glue them up. For dados in 3/4 inch plywood, I almost always go 3/8 of an inch deep. So I need to set the depth of my router bit, and I've got a set of these Craig setup bars, and they come in different depths. So here's the 3/8 inch one, and it makes it really easy to set this at the right height. The top and the bottom of this coffee table are all in this one piece. I've cut it to their final widths, which is 48 inches, but I haven't cut the 2 apart yet, because it's always a good idea to cut out your dados first, and then the 2 halves will line up perfectly when you split them apart. In order to lay out all of your dados correctly on your board, you need to know the distance from the center point of your router bit to the edge of the router base. In my case, it's 2 7/8 inch. So I'm going to start by making the rabbets along the outside edge. What I need to do is take the distance from the base of my router to the bit, that 2 7/8, and then I just need to add in the radius of the router bit, which would be 3/8 of an inch. So then I can line this up. It's a pretty serviceable rabbet, just like that. By the way, it's probably worth mentioning to, especially to a lot of you new to woodworking, the difference between a dado and a rabbet is really nothing. The dado is the same thing. A dado is just a groove that runs down a middle part of your board, whereas a rabbet is just a dado that's on the edge of the board. Now it's time to lay out the dados in the middle. According to my plans, I've got each dado 15 inches from the edge of the rabbet. So that means I need to, the center of the dado will be 15 3/8 of an inch. Then adding the 2 7/8 of the distance of the base of my router, I can put a mark at 18 1/4. And all of that is all very confusing. It's going to be different with your router. Just take the time to do the math and figure all the stuff out, and just be consistent, and you'll be fine. I'm making this middle dado about 1 inch wide so that I have some extra room to cut these 2 pieces apart. This will be the top and the bottom. So all of the rest of my measurements are going to be based on this center line, not the edges. And finally, these dados are going to end up being the 1/4 inch rabbets on the front and the back when I cut this down. And there's all of my dados and rabbets cut. Now I can finally cut both pieces down to 20 inches. Well, good morning. Remember when Norm Abram used to say that on his 2-day project? Cutting all of the rest of the boards is simple because they're all 4 3/4 of an inch wide. So all I need to do is cut out the doors, which I still have some 1/4 inch plywood left over from my credenza. I need to iron on some edge banding on 4 of these pieces. I'm lacquering some of the inside surfaces now while I can still get to them easily. Not only are these legs going to be a little bit longer than the ones I made for the credenza, but they're a little bit more complicated because each leg is in 2 separate pieces. So I'm going to cut 2 legs on each of these blanks. They're not perfect. I'm not very good at making even tapers. Nobody's going to be measuring the diameters of these legs. So if they're a little bit off in any place, I don't think anybody will ever know. Having all of those dados already cut makes it really simple to just lay everything out and glue it up. I'm able to put in some tacks right along this edge where the molding is going to cover it up. And I can clamp up these middle dividers. I'm going to see if I can drill a 1/2-inch hole as straight as possible into these legs. Cutting these legs into pieces is going to be a little bit tricky because once I cut it in half, it'll no longer sit flat against my table saw, and there I won't have a square cut. I intentionally left the square sides on here so I would have a flat surface. So using my table saw sled, I can clamp this square piece here to the fence, get it up where it needs to be, and then all I'm going to do is just shim this up and support the back. Now what I've done is I've set up a stop block here so I can cut the lengths all the same. So I'll just clamp this down the same way and shim it up. To cut off these end pieces, I don't want this part to get trapped between the blade and this stop block, which, because it's a kind of a short piece and it's really thick. So what I've done is I've set up a stop block up here that I can line this stop block up against, clamp it down, then I can line this up like before and clamp it down. Then once I've got all of that secure, I'll just release this stop block and cut it off. Well, that seemed to work out really well to get all of my pieces exactly the same length. In order to get these legs on here, I've tipped the whole case upside down. And this is the shelf that I finished the upper side of it. So I'm gonna flip it around and set it on here. And I'll clamp these together. I'll drill a hole through both of these boards and stop before I come through the other side. One thing I need to do with this lower shelf is I need to scrape away some of this lacquer where these legs are gonna go. Wow, that was tricky.
So I say to you,
I can attach this lower trim molding now.
all we have is one another. Will you stand with me? Keep on trying to find a reason for the problems in this world. Trying to find a reason for the heartaches we endure. Trying to find a reason for the tears we always cry. Trying to find a reason for the pressure, the pressure.
Alright, I'm ready to glue on these final strips and put the doors in, but what I want to do is put some waxed paper around those so that I don't get any glue on them.
Yeah, oh, oh.
With that, we have some furniture that finally matches in our house. So, thanks for watching. Be sure and check in the description for links to Facebook, my website, and where you can download plans if you'd like to build this yourself.